Hello, I'm Azai. Welcome back to UuultraC. You know the usual. I just came back from the gym and ate some food. And here I am, back again with some more UuultraC. I've been doing pretty nicely at the gym, but I think I'm probably reaching a plateau for quite a while. I've been sort of like increasing the weights pretty consistently every couple of weeks now, but I think on some of the lifts, I am probably gonna be staying there for a couple of months because it's just been pretty difficult to, do the lifts. But yeah, other than that, I've been really enjoying like the bulk, I suppose. I'm still at 72 kilograms, but I'm probably gonna stay at this weight for a year or two. Let's see, and maybe I'll try to cut down after that. We'll see. But yeah, I'm enjoying the amount of energy I have, and etc. etc. But yeah, let me actually talk about the last episode recap. On the last episode, we started off chapter 3. What you didn't see was me also going to the extras here. So the extras actually, unlike a typical like hentai game sort of thing, usually the extra thing is supposed to be where you see the scenes where you get the 8 scenes, right? But this game seems to not do that. This game actually puts in really interesting, I don't know, like scenes here. This is probably the epilogue there on the bottom left. So I'm guessing the small things are the epilogues. I don't know though, maybe these are like important scenes or whatever. But judging based on the number we still are missing, yeah, we're probably gonna finish chapter 3 and fill everything here. Since I do think not most, but all chapters have 2 big ones and 2 small ones. And look at that, we're missing just 2 big ones and 2 small ones. Or technically 1 big one and 2 small ones, and 1 super small one. The movie though, it does have a 3 and 4. So there must be like a super ending or something at the very end. We'll see. We'll see what's actually there on the 4th one. It might be like a true epilogue for everyone. But yeah, I haven't really talked about the last episode recap. After we started off chapter 3, we are in Juro's perspective and we basically know about who our Icaruses are at the very beginning. And we know for a fact that Juro was the one that made these Icarus. The thing that I didn't expect was the fact that Miyamoto is also an Icarus. We already know that there were 3 other Icaruses, you know, Ayada, Kozuka, and also the what is her name again? Jew something girl. The delivery girl. I don't know what her name is. But yeah, we definitely know a lot about the backstory now. And also, not so much about Yomi yet, but you know, I guess we'll see more about Yomi. We're also living a lie, at least that's how I interpret it. Because I don't think Juro actually wants to live in this sort of situation. But he's kind of just ebbing his way, or is that the right word to use that? Or the right way to use that word, yeah? But he's basically just flowing, right? He's just living life as a water flowing from up and down. Because he's not really living based on his own desires. He doesn't want to be that Nozomi chick's fiancé. He doesn't want to be an Icarus. He wants to be with Yomi. But I probably know that Yomi also wants to do the same thing. But they're not really honest with their feelings, I guess. But yeah, I believe this is after we saw... make the game a bit louder there. Sorry about that. But this is probably the scene after we saw the Nozomi 8 scene, right? Yeah, we were having sex with Nozomi and then we came back to our apartment. And then we woke up in Yomi's lap, I think? Oh, no. We went back and then Yomi was asleep. Right.
おいシエン 今度は何すか？
例のそれと
I guess this is the first time he had sex.
え？
Akira grasps his ring finger.
おめでとうございます。
先輩すげえっす。俺っち絶対に無理だと思ってました。
That was a long pause. I don't necessarily think having sex is the same as, like getting married, to truth be told. I do think people are putting the horse before the cart, or whatever the saying goes.
こんやろ
Cart before the horse, I think.
ということは許してもらえたんですか？
全身ピカピカにして土下座したら一緒に住むことになった。
急展開。
わけわかんないぞ。
わけわかんないからもっと知りたいってさ。悔しいがあのおっぱい女のおかげだな。
ってさっきから目の前にいるんですけど、まあうまくいってよかったじゃん。信じられないけど。
幸せだな。
くっせー。
I think the other chick's name is Fujiko something. I'm actually trying to remember her name throughout this whole exchange.
アキラ、また変なことしないようにね。それにしても藤子さん遅いな。
Yeah, there we go, Fujiko. Fujiko something.
藤子ちゃんなら配達で遅くなるそうで。
君たちって仲良しだね。そこだけセイロガンでつながってるの？
Sarugon one?
テレパシーのことセイロガンって言うな。
Oh yeah, the pill that they took for all of the Icaruses. Well, except for Juro
いや
and Yomi.
付き合ってるんで。
おめでとうございます。
さっき一発やってたら遅くなっちゃって。
っていうか、さやしくん、作戦会議ってこんなんでいいの？こいつら下ネタしか言ってないんだけど。
ウランちゃんまさか俺っちのこと。
いやないわ。君軟体動物じゃん。
ヨミっちは好きな人いるんすか？
そうじゃねえよ。
自分はここにいるみんなが好きですよ。
タロも？
はい。
ジュロも？
はい。重郎は特別。
Whoa, surprisingly very honest.
やっぱただならない。なんなのこのアジト。
It's so hot today, by the way, guys. Jesus. I don't have the AC on, so I just have my fan right now, and it's so humid. Usually it's not this humid. Fujiko is going to be late. Shin could tell her about it later, so it was probably okay to start the meeting.
みんなに重大な話がある。
Now,
報酬を引き上げる。
we actually got money from doing this? Boran jumped out of her chair. Shin shouted for joy. Akira put his head down on the table. They were each shaking with joy. You've all been a great help. Yomi was the one who just nodded. Yomi, how long? How long do I have to keep this up? 1 year later, wow, this is
大丈夫？アキラ。
a very big time skip. So yeah, I guess that first the first time they had sex there was 1 year before we saw Shotaro's perspective. I pierced through its wings and ripped them off. Then we all faced the same direction. It was an ominous house. I could just see inside of its dark interior. Oh, this is that grandma chick's house. Sakura's grandma. The kaiju we were after had run up ahead. Stay here. We exchanged glances before I ran on inside.
堪忍してや。
その子を離せ。
私の娘や。堪忍して。
There was no way such a young girl was his old woman's daughter. The girl was frozen with fear and confusion. I approached them slowly so I wouldn't frighten them off. Oh man, I guess we're finding out at last about Sakura's true, backstory. It was night. We all came running after the presence Taro sensed. I mean, she's probably adopted, right? Because Hibarino said that she was the daughter, or I forgot who it was. No, Shin said it to us. Shin said it to Shotaro. We managed to confront and stop the kaiju that had kidnapped the girl. But then, she changed back to normal and started sputtering this nonsense. There were traces of anger toward us in the old woman's eyes as she gasped for breath. We had no way of knowing when she had transformed into a kaiju again.
さくら逃げはよ逃げ
The old woman looked at us again and spread her wings to cover the little girl. Suddenly, I was pierced by her beak and launched high in the sky. So she's supposed to be that Karasu, right? The crow. The crow kaiju. The wind pressure made it difficult to move. She opened her beak, slowly ripping my body apart. Barely able to move, I couldn't land my punches or kicks. I reached out to grab her eye and used all of my strength to push it inward. The kaiju's roar shook through my body. Haro caught me as the kaiju fell into the river. Out of strength, I changed back to normal. The old woman was laying on the bottom of the river. Her legs had broken as soon as she fell. It didn't look like she would be able to stand again. Is she not the Karasu? The crow? She wasn't a kaiju, but human. Seeing her convulse as she would lay dying, Akira's lifted fist was trembling. It was the White Icarus. He stood between Akira and the old woman, then kissed her softly from behind a veil.
おばあさん、あなたの力が何なのか、私に教えて。
His mask shone like the rising sun. He shouldn't have had any more strength, any more life. And yet, she had transformed again. Her bright black wings spread like a peacock. The power to raise the dead. It was now clear what the White Icarus had stolen.
倒すんだアキラ
He ran away. The White Icarus turned his eyes toward me. I had no choice but to withdraw. If his anger was directed at me, retreat would be best for now. I used the last of my strength to transform into Icarus. This was the first time I had ever turned my back on a kaiju. The hero siren blared through the city. It felt like it was shaming me for running away. The White Icarus had killed Gorohachi. Who is Gorohachi though? I know it's that guy that we keep seeing in the flashback, but who is he to you? Is he just a friend? Is he your dad's friend? Who is he? Why do you care so much about this Gorohachi? I had a grudge against him as well. I found Akira in the house.
おかん、どないなってしもたん？おかんはルーないんや。さくらが勝手にほっついたから。教えて、おかん今どこ？この子怪獣だ！
If she lost it now, it would only be a matter of time before she turned into a kaiju like the old woman did. Akira kneeled down and hugged her tight.
元気になったら合わせてやるから
So this is when he lied. The girl hugged Akira back. Akira was the one shedding silent tears. I wasn't sure who needed to be comforted the most right now.
眠りました。
And I wonder if I was in Juro's shoes, if I would just like actually just kill the little girl. I mean, in my head, I don't really care about kaijus, as I said. I told you guys my reasoning about why kaijus are dangerous, right? When we were in Chotsugai's perspective, and when he was almost raped. Yomi came back and gave me a cheerless smile. I'm not doing that out of justice, though. I'm doing that because I'm a coward. I'm afraid of those things that can kill me. Unlike Juro, maybe Juro doesn't even want to do this too. Maybe he doesn't have his own sense of virtue. Because, like I said, he's kind of been living in a lie. We were going to take her to an orphanage as soon as she woke up.
待ってくれ。
Akira trailed off as he stopped us. He quickly made up his mind and gave us a serious look.
俺が引き取る。
アキラ
Did he feel sorry for her?
怪獣のみなしごなんてどんな扱いされるかわかんねえだろ。
ご心配なく。秘宝が出資する施設です。
てめえらにはわかんねえよ。育ての親すらいねえやつの気持ちなんざ。
I mean, he said that his family were all dead when he was alive, I think. I don't know though, I don't remember exactly Kozuka's backstory. We only saw glimpses of it back in Shotaro's perspective too, when he read the manga. Akira wasn't thinking straight. I thought that they were both already dead, yeah, and like his sister was the one that died to a kaiju. Had he gone through something similar? I knew he wouldn't back down unless we reached a compromise.
あの怪獣と少女の身元がわかるまで僕が預かる。君は今余計なことを考えるな。
Akira bit his lip and swallowed his protests. I mean, it's not like I don't understand Kozuka's feelings here. I definitely understand the feeling of not being wanted when I was born. Because I'm like the last kid, right? And I don't know though. I feel like just because I felt that, maybe it's inhuman for me to say this, but because I felt that sadness, I don't necessarily care if other people feel the same thing. I'm not trying to bond with other people. I'm not trying to make the same type of people as me happy. I don't know. I'm a pretty weird person, guys. I'm a pretty like. I feel like some part of my brain died when I was like growing up, or maybe like it got numb. I definitely know that I'm emotionally numb for the most part, but there's definitely something that happened in the process when I was growing up that made it even worse. That's what I notice about myself, and I notice it when I'm playing these visual novels and I kept introspecting about the reasoning why stuff that I say sometimes is very cruel. But those are my true feelings, though. I'm not like masquerading anything. Those are my true feelings whenever I'm angry, whenever I'm like thinking something. He rushed out of the room.
君にあの子を任せることになる。悪いな。
いえ、
Was this really okay? I looked up, my eyes still closed, as I let out a directional sigh. The old Akira would never sympathize with a kaiju. He was the kind of guy who didn't get close to anyone, let alone kaiju. Well, I guess meeting Shotaro made him kinda a bit more soft. Yeah, if I was in Kozuka's shoes, I'd probably still kill Akira. Oh, sorry, not Akira, Sakura. This was...
弱みを増やしたな。
Yup. I'm surprised that he said that.
待っててしろ。
I'm actually surprised that he said that, yeah. Because I thought that Juro was a lot more emotional. But it is actually thinking the same way as I am.
この力があれば、私たちの復讐を果たせる。
When did Ishiki get his
すみま
powers?
せん。自分の不注意で。
I mean, we've already seen the White Icarus a couple of times, even last year. He just threw his problem on me. Annoyed, I got off the bus. I hid behind a building and transformed into Icarus, then turned back towards Seijo. She had run away. I searched houses, parks, the shopping arcade, the shrine, and the park again. I was out of breath at that point. That was when... Of course she'd be afraid of me. Oh, what the hell? We're suddenly in Akira's perspective. I hit my left arm, peeled down, and smiled at her.
高校通ってんの？
She'd been watching a school playground. She shook her head.
いつもうちん中から聞いとったんや。
I knew it. There's no way her relationship with that kaiju mom was normal.
おかんに合わせて
Was she being kept against her own will? But she didn't treat her badly? Is that what happened?
謝りたい。
なんて
もうどこも行かへんから帰ってきてって。
じゃあ俺が伝えとく。
We still don't know about Sakura's, finale, by the way. It's implied that she died, but maybe she didn't die? We'll see, I guess.
ほんまあんちゃんのこと信じてええの？
おう。だからでっけえ屋敷でいい子にしてくれ。
いやや、デコのおじちゃん怖い。
俺もあいつめっちゃ怖い。
She finally smiled when I pretended to shudder.
俺のことは怖くねえ。
うん。
It was nothing but a smile.
さくらって言うんや。あんちゃんはなんて呼べばええの？
そうだな。あんちゃんで。
あんちゃん。
She just looked like her. That was it. But after seeing the power to bring the dead back to life with my own eyes, I wanted to cling to this one miracle.
ヨミ、さくらは俺が引き取る。
わかりました。ですが、適さないと判断した場合は、彼女を施設に預けます。いいですか？
ああ。
Didn't work out.
重郎には自分が話しますね。
すまね
え。Yomi smiled at Sakura.
重郎のこと、好きになってもらえたら嬉しいです。彼も一生懸命頑張っているのです。
Yomi was waiting for me outside the studio when I left at dusk.
わざと野放しにしたな。
どこへ行くのか興味があって、アキラさんに特別懐いているようです。
Look at how angry he looks.
君、
She was a kaiju. She was also in an unstable state after being taken away from her parents. We had agreed to watch her in order to make sure she didn't turn into a kaiju and go on a rampage. It was definitely our fault that had happened in the first place. I felt responsible for her.
ご心配なく、人形に発信機を取り付けました。
Wow. Very devious of you.
持っていてくれる限り、後を追いますよ。
そんなものどこで？
太郎のお尻から。
I don't know whether or not that's true anymore. You're kind of just, using that as an excuse. What exactly has he been eating? Yomi had let her escape on purpose so Akira could find her. Basically, Akira got what he wanted in the end. He's treating like Taro as some sort of Doraemon, where, Doraemon has everything in his pocket. I don't know if you guys even watch Doraemon anymore. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. The people that are below my age group probably don't even know Doraemon, I think. He must have decided that she was better with him than here.
それと、さくらちゃんにとても怖がられていましたよ。イカロスの鞘師十郎だってことに気づかないくらい。
だからどうした？
夢を壊さないよう、子供には常に笑顔でお願いします。
What if I don't want the smile? What if the real Juro doesn't want the smile?
口角上げて。まだ硬い。いいですね。その調子です。
Yeah, Juro. I don't know how I feel about Juro acting this way. You're not gonna be happy if you're just acting for other people, Juro.
なんとですね。
Even though Yomi seems to say that he's doing his best, I don't think it's a good way of living. Instead of a white dress, she was wearing a brand new apron. What are you doing in my house? Instead of a mic, Nozomi was there carrying a ladle. Ladle?
十郎さん、誰にも見られないよう参りました。参りました。
You know about Taro? He bowed to the person behind me.
順調ですか？
はい、ヨミさんのおっしゃる通りに。
Yomi ignored me and went into the house. When I gave him a perplexed look, he smiled at me again. I mean, I kind of understand what Yomi's doing. He's basically trying his best to make Juro be happy because he knows his end goal is to leave Earth, right? He's gonna be going away. That's why he knows that Juro's not gonna be happy if he's together with Yomi. I'm guessing that's his mindset. But why can't he just I don't know. Why can't he just forget about his home? Is it something ingrained in his brain that he wants to go back? I guess we'll see. The table was covered with exquisite dishes that almost looked fake. It was a painfully traditional Japanese feast. Having two people cooking meant the food was served with impeccable timing, and nothing on the table had gone cold. Being unnecessarily considerate, Yomi left, taking Taro with him. Right as I was about to help myself to some nitsuke, both of my hands were clasped. I don't know what's a nitsuke.
十郎さん、お料理番組をお持ちでしょ。叶うかどうか心配で。
And why are you afraid that you're gonna turn into a kaiju? Like everyone else that got my blood or bodily fluids turned into an Icarus, not a kaiju. Doesn't that mean that she's also an Icarus?
人が作ったものに文句はつけない。
I didn't think about that when we saw her H scene last time because I was so shocked. But yeah, if you think about it, that should actually make her into an Icarus.
ぜひつけてください。今後のために。
ではそうする。
She hesitantly moved her hands away. Whoa, what the fuck is he doing? Feeling eyes on me, I saw Yomi and Taro spying on us from behind a sliding door. I mean, he was kind of jealous when he saw us eating that ramen from Fujiko. But Jesus, if you're that jealous, you really should be telling your honest feelings, Yomi. I could tell from Yomi's contracted pupils that he'd never forgive me for complimenting her. What? What if it actually tastes good? I couldn't pull off the skin from the fish. I transformed only my right hand into Icarus and pulled off the skin. What? Don't need to do that. I brought it to my mouth, but I definitely wasn't able to chew it. Oh my god, is this raw?
生煮えだが、意図は伝わる。
Oh, I'm actually like pulling the nose hair right now on my nose. Ugh, it hurts. Effort was most important when it came to cooking and acting. I believe things made specifically for someone were more charming than things meant for just anyone. No, I do think it... to some degree, I kind of understand that logic, but I do think the end result sometimes is more important than, you know, the process. If the process is good, but the end result is garbage, I'm still gonna say it's garbage, right?
おいしい。ありがとう。
But I'm not then gonna undermine their effort. If they're actually trying their best, I'm gonna say that, yeah, just keep doing it. And if you actually make something edible, then give it to me.
よかった。
The eyes and ears at the sliding door were now gone.
ヨミさんって素敵な方ですね。
Nozomi turned over in my arms. There was still a fire in those eyes. I must have fallen asleep.
私なんかにも優しくしてくださって。
ヨミは誰にでも優しい。
彼に特別な方はいないのですか？
聞いたことがないな。
なら、それは十郎さんだと思うんです。
Nozomi set said with an unconcerned smile.
あなたを幸せにしてあげてくださいと頼まれました。あなたはたくさんの方に愛されているのですね。
Really? Sure it's not just Yomi?
私もその一人です。
I don't believe you. Make him happy. That meant I wasn't happy then. Yomi could always see right through me. He could see right through me, and yet never offered me a hand.
それと、ヨミさんが教えてくれたのですが。
のぞみ、黙ってくれ。
I covered her restless lips with my own. She gently pulled away from my chest. I guess that's a good way to silence her. She left the house through the back garden and got into her manager's car. I mean, I think it's a good thing if something is actually making you annoyed. Like, it's not as if she's condemning you, right? I feel like it's a good thing to understand your feelings 100%. If something is making you uncomfortable, then that feeling must be reaching to the truth somehow, right? Then those words that they utter must be reaching something to your feelings. They're like, you know, they're reaching deep into your soul. I feel like by running away and not hearing what she wants to say, it's not a very good way to live. I listened to the sound of the engine fade into the distance from my bed, then closed my eyes again. Because I am the type of person that if something is wrong internally, then I try to find out what the cause is. If it's not an external factor, I always try to find something that can make me understand myself. Not necessarily able to mend that thing, right? Because it's very much impossible for us to be a perfect human. But as long as I know what causes me to act in a specific way, I'd be more wary about that sort of thing happening again in the future, is what I'm trying to say. I don't know whether or not that makes sense, but in my head it makes sense. I thought I had been so tired that I hadn't even dreamt, but that didn't seem to be the case. It was 4 in the morning.
早起きだな。
ヨミとオセロしてたの。
You play Othello?
徹夜か。
Taro seemed more excited than usual.
ジュロもしよ。
6時に起こしてくれ。
やだやだやだ。
All 10 kilograms of his weight was bouncing up and down on me. At this rate, he'd probably tire himself out and eventually fall asleep. Very light. I lifted the blanket and sure enough, he slipped right in. But then he started to roll around inside. Suddenly, I heard music. The supple acoustics were characteristic of the wooden record player. Wooden record player? What the heck's that? The volume was gradually lowered. It must have not meant for me to hear. I wouldn't be able to sleep with all this noise. Yomi was standing at the window. Noticing I was awake, he smiled awkwardly.
重郎、おはようございます。
おはよう。
タロが起こしたの。
ダメですよ。
I grabbed the coffee he had probably made for himself. It had a bitter, satisfying smell. The song's intro passed and a voice began to sing. It was Nozomi.
昨日いただいたんです。
He stared at the record jacket with an affectionate gaze. What the heck is a record jacket? He set it next to the record player and sat across from me.
心地よい歌声です。
Is it basically like a radio thing? When I set down the mug, Yomi wrapped his hands around it to warm up his cold fingers.
重郎がいなければ、のぞみさんの歌声は誰にも届けられなかった。そう考えると、この歌は二人の結晶なのでは？
I need to understand more about her background, Yomi.
大げさだ。なぜ泣く？
This was my first time seeing Yomi's tears.
のぞみさんほど心の美しい人はいません。
Are you sure?
人の幸せを願える人なんてそう多くはいない。
And I'm back. Sorry about that. There was a loud noise outside my house.
重郎のことを必ず幸せにしてくれるでしょう。
Not many people can wish for others' happiness, huh? I agree with that, because I'm not one of those people.
必ず。
But I wonder if I found love, I would be able to feel that sort of feeling. I don't know. I personally don't think so. He was sobbing now. His face twisted and his shoulders wouldn't stop shaking. Were all his feelings coming out now? It seemed like Nozomi's song had triggered and released all of these emotions.
ヨミ、大丈夫？ヨミが泣くとタロも泣いちゃうの。
みえ
ピー。
He doesn't look pleased. Yomi, if my happiness can make you cry, why won't you cry for my sadness? I fight for you and Taro's happiness. You're hardly a sympathetic man. Yet this frozen record could capture your heart. What do I have to do to get you to answer my question? Was there something so wrong for wanting a reward for justice? I mean, probably. I don't do anything for justice. I do things for my own satisfaction.
今日はあさりご飯のはずでした。
You like cooking? I had a cooking show at afternoon, or at noon. I spent the entire hour-long live broadcast worrying. When I picked up my stuff backstage, Tara began to scratch at my hips.
どうした？
ジュラこそどうしたの？放送事故じゃないの。
Tara turned into a fan. I stuck him in my obi and headed to the next studio for the afternoon. Nothing was wrong. There was nothing I could do anyway. As long as there was a role for me to play, I had no voice of my own. Yeah, see? He's living life not as his own self. He's doing so in accordance with other people's wishes. It was like when you mix all the colors together and ended up with black. I couldn't depend on anyone else. Even you, Yomi. There was a familiar man standing outside the studio once I was done filming. He had the bag I had left backstage in his hand. He was Nozomi's assistant.
これからは私がお迎えします。今後一緒になるのなら行動を慎んでください。お互いの仕事に支障をきたさぬよう。
He tilted his shoulder to the right. I stuffed my things and Taro into my bag. It looked like I wouldn't be able to ride the Taro cycle for a while. He dropped me off at my house and left before I could thank him. He said this was going to be a long-term thing, but the fact that he wouldn't even give me his name meant he was refusing to do this for very long. There was a man sitting at the front door. He stood up and looked at me as if to ask, "You know how long I waited for you to get back?"
ヨミが来てさくらを連れて行った。
Ah, okay, this is Hibarino. How does he know that that was Hibarino, though, right? No, Hibarino is Yomi's name. Hibari, that was the alias.
施設ってとこはちゃんとさくらを守ってくれんだろうな。
Why did we see Yomi as a girl?
ああ、
Or maybe they both know that Yomi can turn into a female, I don't know. I thought that Yomi was supposedly a normal human, though, from these guys' perspective. That single syllable seemed to put his mind at ease. As soon as he lowered his pleading eyes, he sat back down on the ground.
泣いてるぞ。
翔ちゃんと喧嘩しちまった。
しょちゃんことしょ太郎はアキラの好きな子だよ。
How does he know about that when Shinchan doesn't even know that he and Shotaro are, you know, a thing? They don't know each other until the elevator thing, right? Was this after the elevator thing? I don't think so, right? Or was this after? I don't know. His wailing was going to disturb the neighbors. It's so hard to put the pieces in the timeline together, guys, when you're playing these games like... But not playing these games, I guess, when the story is like split up into multiple characters like this. Taro and I faced each other, then nodded helplessly. He said he hadn't eaten all day, so I made him some soup. He sat there with empty eyes and didn't move a muscle.
残飯じゃねえか。
贅沢言うな。
Better than nothing, you haven't eaten anything, man.
お前もそう思ってんじゃねえかよ。
これを作るために野菜やお豆腐が犠牲になってるんだぞ。
犠牲ってお前。
いただきますって言って。冷めたらもっとまずくなるよ。
Akira's face didn't change as he took a spoonful in a daze. He took one bite, then lowered his head even more.
味しね
我慢するの。
嫌ならば恋人のもとへ帰りたまえ。
こいつ料理番組持ってんだろ。
差し替えが入るの。
か
His eyes began to water again.
アキラ、ジュロ、アキラをたまらせてやってくれ。
I was just thinking the same thing.
アキラ、来い。
Whenever I played a new role, I'd hole myself up in the darkroom. I'd been given countless films to help me prepare for a part. Among them was a role that would be perfect for Akira right now. Unhome et unhome. What language is that? Translated as a man and a man. Okay, French. It was a French film from 1966. It was a story about two widowers who fall in love and come together. The idea behind it was that love could only be seen from a distance. Oh, what the fuck? Come on, my
こ
keyboard!
んなん楽しめんの。
But
なんで見させられてんだっけ。
この男が君に似ているからだ。恋人との綺麗な別れ方を教えてくれるだろ
クソ野郎が。
I guess that's because he thought that, Shotaro was the source of his weakness. Akira slouched and rested his chin in his hand as he kept his eyes on the screen. The film went round and round. Parting is in the opposite of love. The subtitles read. I'd watched the same ending countless times and had told myself the same thing. Sensing it was over, Akira stood up.
だがいい反面教師にさせてもらった。ぶつくさ考えんのは性に合わねえ。映画なんか参考にしたとこで真似できる器量もねえしな。
その通り。
時間取らせてすまねえな。俺は帰るぜ。
アキ
ラ。おう、なんだ。
トイ
I was left alone in the room. The president of Hiho had given me this film. It was the white in my palette. What does that mean? I woke up at the break of dawn. I smelled the toast and coffee that my uncle would make. Uncle? I sleepily headed toward the kitchen and saw Yomi and Taro there.
おはようございます。
ジュロ、
太郎が洋食がいいというので、太郎のアドバイスに従ってみました。
見ました。
そうか。すまないな。
7 was late for me to wake up. I didn't have an appetite, but I could go for a piece of toast. Taro probably added ham and eggs on top of it. I mean, if you just eat toast, that's just carbs. When did Yomi being here become an unusual sight?
そろそろ戻ってきてくれないか。太郎のためになる。
Yomi turned away from me and watched Taro at the window. Taro was chewing on a piece of toast as he watched a small bird in the garden.
毎朝君の味噌汁が飲みたい。
それは女性にかけるセリフです。
仕事として頼んでいる。 付き人として雇いたい。
You should have been okay with it if it was employment.
社員でなくバイトなら。
I pulled a notebook out from my sleeve and handed it to him. Let me check my schedule for today.
本日はお休みのようです。
明日はイカロスの撮影だからな。
気合い入れが必要ですね。
Haro snuggled up to Yomi when he had finished eating. He purred as Yomi pet him.
夜ね、アキラと一緒に戦ったんだぞ。
怪我はありませんか？
ありませんであります。
よかったです。
それで一個思い出したの。
教えてください。
Padded into the hallway. Turned around with a face that seemed to be saying, "Follow me." Haro went into the dark room. I didn't take him in there very much, and yet he still went straight up to the pile of films. He knocked it over with a small front paws. Hiding at the bottom of the films was a picture frame covered in cloth. I picked it up for him and was surprised by how light it was. Eventually, I remembered what it contained.
それ何？
父が僕に送ったものだ。
It was a paper theater. My father's exaggerated Icarus origin story was found in this. This was one of many such paper theaters. I remember this one especially because it was the one he had given me as a birthday gift.
あれ？でもなんでタロがこんなこと？
Is Taro my dad? I blew off the dust and only took out the stack of paper. The paper was so clean and not at all sun bleached. I immediately handed it to Yomi.
君にあげよ
いえ、
う。もらってほしい。
いりません。
僕よりもイカロスを愛する君にこそ。
ただのイカロスに興味はありません。自分はヒーローである重郎が好きなんです。
I couldn't take it anymore.
僕ではなくか。
はい。
僕でもイカロスでもなく、
When I'm Icarus?
ヒーローの僕にしか君は。
The eyes that were looking up at me were the same as yesterday. The day before yesterday. A year ago. Since the day we met. I touched his pale neck and used my thumb to lift his face. I kissed him deep.
太郎、席を外してくれ。
いえ、そこにいてください。
Yomi didn't run away. I mistook that for his answer.
合意のない口づけはうぬぼれか戯れかどちらかだと聞きます。
Could also be desperation, you know.
僕は本気だ。ヨミ。
His right hand touched the nape of my neck. He gripped my collar and brought his face closer. When I opened my mouth to let him kiss me back, he bit my tongue hard.
重郎のことは家族だと思っています。ですが、それ以上の感情はありません。心得違いなきよう。
ヨミ。
付き人としての役目は果たします。それでは明日、撮影所で。
Very, I wouldn't say self-absorbed, but what is it? He's very goal-focused, Yomi. Once he set a goal, I guess he just doesn't really care about, his own feelings or whatever. Though I'm kind of speculating that he has feelings for Juro. Maybe he actually does not. Guess we'll have to see. He left in a hurry. My tongue was stinging. There was blood when I wiped my mouth.
何したんだ？ヨミになんかエッチなこと？ジュロ、君ってやつは。
Was it nothing more than arrogance?
真似してはいけないぞ。
When I got to my studio dressing room, I passed Yomi who was carrying a delivery bento.
おはようございます。
何をしている？
AD 兼雑用兼あなたの付き人です。
He got more jobs again. He hurried off while politely bowing to everyone he passed. Had he forgiven me for yesterday? I followed him, wanting to tell him something, but I could no longer see him. I could transform anytime I wanted, but I needed help getting into the red suit. It was a joke. The suit wasn't very flexible and would change if I gained or lost even 1 kilogram. I stood in front of the mirror and saw the costume instead of myself. I beamed like a child and prepared myself to leave the room. It wasn't conscious, it's just a job. Suddenly, my left ear shook.
ジュロ
Taro had slipped into my suit at some point.
ムクムクの雰囲気するよ気をつけて
It's probably Shotaro. There was a kaiju nearby? I watched the traffic of people going back and forth. I found something that wasn't quite right. It was a kaiju. Yomi didn't notice a thing as he stood next to him.
重郎
I'd kill it before it could harm Yomi. I transformed my foot into Icarus and kicked the kaiju in the chest. Jesus, this guy. I realized my mistake when the kaiju went flying.
重郎彼は新人怪獣アクターのカゴメさんです。カゴメさん立てますか？
大丈夫です。
すまない。あまりにも成功ゆえ、驚いた拍子に蹴ってしまった。
I held out my hand. I felt his hand shaking with pain and fear. There was a flash right beside us. A familiar man had snuck up on us. How is he familiar? You haven't really seen him at all before this, right?
メイキングメイキング。
The man's smile was pure evil. Judging from the camera in his hand, he must have been a photographer hired by the studio. I pulled Kagome up.
僕は鞘師十郎。急な依頼と聞いている。よろしく頼む。
よろしくお願いします。
I'd been rude. I acknowledged him as another actor and bowed low. There was actually no scene where we said that Shotaro was not going to be a hero in this flashback. Huh. We don't even know about Kagome Shotaro other than the fact that he's, Kozuka's boyfriend. Did Yomi change into us and do something behind the scenes? Huh.
お父さん僕だよ僕はここにいるよ
戻るんだ。あれはもう君のお父さんではない。怪獣ゴドランだ。
そんなんじゃない
サタンに操られたゴドランなんだ。
あー目を覚ましてよお父さん
The tuna fisherman under the control of Demon Lord Satan has turned into a kaiju and is on the rampage. Hearing the news, Icarus immediately rushes to the scene of chaos to put the kaiju to rest. I watched Kagome go on his rampage while Taro's words weighed on my mind. Where was this puffy evil kaiju he had sensed? The assistant director signaled for me to go on stage. As soon as I jumped on stage, Kagome actually flinched.
君を倒してゴドランを息子に会わせてあげるんだ。
無駄口しないでね。
The remaining explosives went off the moment he pushed me away. Did something catch on fire? There was smoke rising. I could tell the directors were nervous. I wanted to end this as quick as possible. I put all my strength into a kick to his torso. Buildings fell as he went flying to the end of the stage. Now that things were put to an end safely, I heard someone yell, "Cut!" That was the end of his rampage scene. The fire needed to be put out before the set burned up.
待った。
It was the kaiju creator that had come from behind the fake mountains. His rage was directed toward Kagome.
何
なっとらん。なんだそのざまは。暴れるシーンはこれで終わりかなとかなんとか思っとるんだろう。
イカロスがかっこよければそれでいいんだよ。
若造が何も分かっとらん。
Did we kill this guy after he turned into a kaiju?
炎は渦があってこそ、水は波紋があってこそ。
落ち着いてください。
燃え上がれカゴメくん、これが本物の怪獣だ。
His body expanded like a hot air balloon with the heat turned on. His human skin ripped apart, revealing a giant kaiju. The hot air made the sprinklers go off. Where was Yomi? He was carrying Kagome, who had passed out from the explosion outside. The Seijo hero siren was going off. I hid in the shadows while I waited for everyone to escape the chaos.
むくむくだぞ、むくむく。
Its immense rage was making its blood vessels explode. All I had to do was wait for it to destroy itself. Orange lightning struck the kaiju. That was the same color as the ability that had been stolen the other day. Aw. So I'm guessing the person that had the ability to revive the kaiju was actually the grandma. Interesting. The kaiju stopped breaking down and turned around with determination in its eyes. I had to fight. I mean, I guess that's... I mean, that's probably the truth, isn't it? Ishiki did tell us that his true ability was going inside the mirror thing. I transformed into the Black Icarus underneath the red suit. With my sharpened senses, I could get the full picture of the kaiju. Oh, give me a sec, guys. Someone was, Okay, my bad. I actually thought someone was knocking on my door. Huh. Weird? Why did I actually hear someone knocking on my door? But okay. I ripped apart its approaching wing with a roundhouse kick. It let out a crazed roar in front of me. There we go. That's the dialogue I missed. I could have sworn I heard my brother. I guess I must be half asleep or something. That was weird. I grabbed the other wing coming at me from the side and ripped it off. Its bones were exposed. It should have gone down by now. Unfortunately, the strings holding him up and telling him to kill were too tight. I focused my strength into my fist and pierced it through its chest. It became particles of light that dispersed into the air. Was this also... No. This was before Totsugai actually got the picture of us with that other guy. The water was evaporating from the heat. I called out to the figure inside of the haze.
そこにいるのは誰だ？
The man continued to hide in the shadows as he snapped pictures. He was smiling boldly as he approached the edge of the stage.
もう覚えていないのは当たり前か。蝶津貝四郎、夜高で共演した一回限りの役者だよ。
君か。蝶津貝。そのカメラは何だ？
君が怪獣を倒す様子を撮らせてもらった。君が巷のイカロスにそういないな。やっぱり君が本物のイカロスだったんだな。だとしたらこの写真、不都合じゃないかい？
どういうことだ？
耳を澄ませたまえ。
Yeah, this is actually Miyamoto, right? Yeah, Miyamoto is actually helping us even though she's technically with Juro. I heard the Seijo's hero siren, the sprinklers, and then also among those was...
祖師ヶ谷9丁目のサイレンだ。行かなくていいのか？それとも君は倒せる怪獣しか相手にしないか？
イカロスは僕だけじゃない。別のヒーローが向かっただろう。
So Shigaya was Akira's jurisdiction. There was no need for me to rush over there. Shotsuga was here though, so how did he know about the siren?
何を企んでいる？
八百長試合を暴いてやろうとね。二度とヒーローを名乗れないようにしてやる。
You know, that might actually be what Juro wants deep inside. The Seijo hero siren stopped. I could hear the Soshigaya siren clearly in the distance. Shotsugai dragged his soaking body out of the studio. He seemed bent on standing in my way. Things could get ugly if the people against us joined forces with him. I flew through the city at low altitude and landed near Akira.
アキラ、
He was standing right in the middle of the street.
君、
誤報は絶対に許さねえ。
戻るんだ。
出てこいや！
His shouting sent the crows flying away. Jumped, then instantly calmed down. Well, at least no one was hurt. Was Chotsugai just trying to provoke me? Still, not a single problem had been resolved.
白いイカロスが手先を出してきた。用心するんだ。
The kaiju were being controlled by that orange light. Akira changed back to normal and clenched his fist. I returned to Hiho in the Taro cycle. Yomi had been waiting for me on the bridge next to stage 8.
誤報でしたか。
ちょっと安心。
撮影は
中止になりました。総集編で穴を埋めるそうです。
そうか。
今日はこれにて解散です。
I'm guessing filling it in with highlights is CGI? A cold wind blew across the bridge. Yomi was only a step away. The distance between us felt immense. I wanted to apologize for yesterday. I knew he was waiting for it. He was looking up at me with eyes like a parent teaching a child about good and evil. But if I admitted that I had done something wrong, I'd be lying to myself.
あの紙芝居、あそこに置いたのは自分なんです。まだ文字が読めない頃、代わりに太郎さんが読んでくれました。
See, so is Taro supposed to be my uncle? Because we know that my dad is Shinichi.
主人公の名前は十郎、ヒロインの名はのぞみ。あなたたちが結ばれたら、亡きご両親はどれほど喜ぶか。
Yomi,
ヒーローにはそれを支えるヒロインが必要ですから。
that's what they all say, I guess. I mean, in superhero movies, I guess they always have a romantic interest. Does Batman have one, though? I don't know. I think he doesn't have one? I actually prefer those lonely types. I guess not really lonely, those who stand in solitude. He gave me back my notebook. Why was I hesitating? I accepted it after letting out a sigh.
お疲れ様です。さようなら、十郎。
I reached out for him, but I had neither the lines nor the actions in my repertoire that could have stopped him. I froze on top of the bridge. I went home, then headed toward the dark room to watch a movie. Yeah, everything that Juro does is based on references and, patterns. What about you yourself, Juro? Come on, be honest with yourself. But I guess if you've been doing this for 12 years like he does, it's kind of hard to actually find your true self, huh? The paper theater was so scattered about. I picked it up regardless of the order, and began to rip them apart.
ごめんね、ジュロ。思い出さない方がよかったの？すごく辛そう。太郎、しばらく粘土に戻るね。いつでも呼んでね。
Not your fault.
そばにいるよ。
My love, the rising sun you see is my setting sun. Setting sun you see is my rising sun. Countless shadows are born from one sun. Your shadow can only be born from you. Did he write that?
うるせえな。
鞘師さん、この穴が俺違いの男ぞ。
やったくらいで付き合った気になってたの？しょうがない子だね。
好きって言ったじゃないっすが。
言ったよ。
ならなんで一晩ではしごするんすが。しかも俺っち3番ってガバガバっすよ。
あんたちっちゃいもんね。次から順番変えるよ。
そうじゃねえっす。
でもね、あんたが一番好きよ。
I don't think I'd want to be anywhere near you, Fujiko. At least not as a not as a close friend. You can be an acquaintance. I wouldn't care if you're just an acquaintance.
だから3番目にしたのさ。朝まで一緒に寝たいから。
藤子ちゃん。
You're happy with just that, Hayata?
ねえ、本当に付き合っちゃおうか。だけど、たまには別のとこ行くの許して。あんたもエロ雑誌で抜くでしょ？
So dumb.
うん、抜く。
それと同じさ。
わかりました。
うわー、藤子さんいいな。私も奴隷欲しい。
I guess she doesn't want to be chained down. Which is understandable, but that sort of frivolous behavior really doesn't appeal to me.
鞘師、もう帰っていいか？
I didn't see the usual person in the kitchen. I looked over everyone's faces.
解散。
ちょっと何かあるでしょ。
変身時、解除時に周りに人がいないか気をつけろ。声を発するのも禁止だ。
アキラくん聞こえた？君のことだよ。
He ran up the stairs, easily jumping 2 steps at a time. Seeing how energetic he was, he must have patched things up with his boyfriend. I tried to casually sit back down, but the chair creaked. That was when there was a timid knock on the door. It didn't sound like any of our knocks, so everyone fell silent. Yomi? I got up to greet him when the door started to open cautiously. White shoes stepped out.
吉永のぞみ？
なぜ君が？
She was the most confused one in the room. Her small stature was even more noticeable when she was standing on the same level as us. She turned clockwise to look around the room until her eyes found the kitchen.
なんであなたがここに？
Yomi forced her into this?
毎週土曜夕方、お茶出しするよう頼まれまして。誰に？ヨミさんです。ふつつか者ですが、よろしくお願いします。
Yomi, I feel like this is not going to make Juro, you gotta ease this in a bit, this is kind of forceful.
どういうことっすか？
She's basically trying to replace Yomi, but not in a very subtle manner.
申し遅れました。吉永のぞみです。それは知ってます。
They all looked at me in silence, curious about our relationship.
のぞみは僕の婚約者だ。
ジスか。
私は知ってたけどね。
早田真と申します。のんちゃんの大ファンです。コンサートを護衛したこともあるんですよ。
ありがとうございます。
シュワワー。
溶けた。早速お茶を入れますね。
Nozomi went into the kitchen while the others began to clean up the base. I mean, I don't like the way Yomi is doing this. The way I can see this, that makes sense is as if, like, say, my mom usually makes me breakfast, right? And then suddenly my mom said to someone to do the same thing for me every single day. It's not a very subtle way of trying to say that I don't want to be your mom anymore. And this one is gonna replace my what's the word I'm looking for? My whatever it is that word is. Sorry. My mind is kind of blanking out. My role, there we go. One was polishing the table with their breath. Another was checking the springs on the seats. Who were these people? Oblivious to their concern, Nozomi boiled water while checking her notes. Alright, someone sighed.
あたいらはそろそろ帰ろうかね。
俺っちもう少しお話を。
行くよ。
Fujiko grabbed him by the scruff of his neck and dragged him away. Oran followed them to hide Shin's shameless behavior. The base was unbelievably quiet once they were gone. Noticing the fading sound of footsteps, she let out a depressed sigh, different from those of the others. She must have realized they were trying to be considerate of her. I was actually surprised by their behavior.
手土産もなしに失礼でしたね。来週も来ます。皆さんに認めてもらえるように。
その必要はない。
私は少しでも十郎さんの。
君を危険にさらしたくない。
There was Chotsugai who hated me, and the white Icarus that was after me. I didn't want them to find out about her. Protect Nozomi.
ゴロ8にそう誓った。
彼の名前は出さないでください。それじゃあまるで彼のために渡した。
Kinda is. Is that your dad?
それ以外の理由があるのか。
At least he's being honest about it. The door was suddenly opened. It was Uran and the others. God, these guys are fucking into gossip. Akira should have been gone already, but he was right at the front. So he was the one that was curious the most. Their discontent group occupied the stairs in clearly pre-established poses.
鞘師さん最低っす。
そんな気持ちで付き合ってんなら、あたいが許さないよ。
この変態どもと同意見だ。
I mean...
やめてください。私が悪いんです。
You could always break it off if she doesn't like it. I have a sense of obligation and that's why I'm doing it, I guess.
20歳の女の子にひどい恋愛させんな。それは事務所が設定した年齢で28です。
Jesus, that's a really big gap.
大スクープじゃん。
とにかくのんちゃんに謝ってください。
さやし。
私が勝手に十郎さんを。謝れこら。
さやしさん。
Not gonna apologize if I'm not in the wrong.
奥歯突っ込んでケツガタガタ言わすぞ。
I'm gonna beat you the fuck up too.
それを言うなら。
They fell out of their poses as their eyes wandered toward me, silently pointing their fingers. They were blaming me for her tears. Honestly, even I knew that.
のぞみ。
I took her by the shoulders and turned her toward me. I mean, my responsibility is just to protect Nozomi. Right, Juro? I'm not supposed to make her happy, right? Her eyes were holding back tears as she faced the floor.
先ほどの言葉は本心だ。ゴロ8に君を託された。託されたからには君を守り抜く。
十郎さん。
傷つけたならすまない。
A smile slowly crept onto her face. I pulled her into my arms before more tears could fall. She stopped shaking. I didn't have to worry about her turning into a kaiju. So is she a kaiju? The others smiled when they saw Nozomi smiling. She doesn't have the orange eyes though. The Seijo hero siren went off. It was my turn to go, but Nozomi was scared and hugging me tight.
皆さん、改めてようこそイカロスの基地へ。
じわっとやっつけてきますよ。
全員レッドなんですね。
I was hit by the Toyosu sea breeze. The pillar that was protruding out of the vast stretch of land made for a strange sight. The pavilion that should have been completed today was nowhere to be found. Even the sponsors at the Zenshiba IHI? IEHI? What do you say that? Museum had withdrawn from what now looked like ruins. Why did they spell sponsors like that? The Tokyo Olympics had messed everything up. 6 years ago today, Japan failed to earn the trust of the rest of the world.
太陽の柱はおじさまが設計されたそうですね。おじさまと奥様が失踪されて、これこそお二人の姿なのではと巷の噂です。
This? The sun pillar?
僕には分かりかねます。
I folded up the construction plans and progress report as I walked through the ruins. No one at Zenshiba had ever said they weren't going to finish it though.
なぜ日本にだけ怪獣が生まれるか考えたことはありますか？
I don't know. I didn't even know that it was only in Japan.
私は典型だと思うのです。
People tended to talk about their religious views when they were bored.
日本は古来より荒々しい精神風土、ルーツを領地し怪獣と和解し、今こそ全日本人が進歩と調和をなすべきなのです。
This guy's insane.
そういうことだと思いませんか？
When he turned to look at me, I turned to Akira instead.
便所どこっすか？
ありません。
The staff member waved his hand toward the bottom of the ruins. We continued to head outside toward the vast wasteland without looking back.
急な頼みですまなかった。
別に。
I had a feeling I'd get dragged into a long conversation. I needed someone as impatient as Akira to come with me. Thanks to him, I was able to cut things short. Lee had been in a bad mood all day.
何が守り抜くだ。昨日言ったこと、洋画のセリフまんまじゃねえか。
Yup.
いけないことか。
Once his job was done, Akira ran off. I was at the foot of the pillar. Its golden mask had watched the whole thing. Looks black to me. How is that golden? There was a giant tree in the womb of the sun pillar. The roots were thick, and the ends were short. It seemed to represent the growth and culling of life. There was a dog hiding among those tenuous connections.
太郎。
He ran up the tree. I went after him at my own pace.
君はここが好きだな。
なんとなく落ち着くの。
Taro wasn't a kaiju or human, just like this monument. I figured Taro was hiding out here for the day he was gone.
ジュロのおじさんってどんな人だったの？
爆発していた。やることなすこと、僕には理解できなかった。
I guess this guy must be our uncle, Taro.
例えば
犬の植木鉢を作った。
変なの。
まさに君のような姿だ。
I stood halfway up the pillar. Taro was climbing up even higher.
おじさんがくれたクレヨンは今も大事に取ってある。
ジュロ、お絵かきするの？タロもお絵かき好きだよ。
知っている。
Taro wagged his tail enthusiastically when I smiled.
タロ楽しい。最近のジュロ辛そうだったからもっともっと笑って。ジュロ、帰ったらたくさん絵を描こう。
そうだな。
なんで？涙止まらないの。
The way the light reflected off his tears made them look like falling gems. His tears were so clear and pure. It made me want to pick them up and keep them for myself.
太郎が記憶を取り戻すごとに、僕も君に秘密を教えよう。一つずつだ。
一個思い出してたの。
教えてくれ。
カラス飼ってた。ちっちゃいの。
大きな成果だ。
ジュロの秘密は？
詩人になりたい。
おわー、大きな成果だ。
This guy is so overbearing. Yeah, he was definitely the one that wrote that then. The sun thing.
なぜ人は絵を描くのですか？
Sorry about that. Did she drew Taro's face there in that flower? Oh, this stupid mosquito.
誰？
Oh, sorry. I didn't get it. So distracting me.
芸術とは何なのですか？
I have no idea myself, Yomi.
わからん。
I don't draw though. But if I seek some really damn nice art, you know.
四角い枠の中を埋めることが楽しいですか？
No idea. I don't have anything that I frame. But maybe it's the same thing as when you want to actually display your your figurines and stuff, right?
楽しいで。
はみ出してはいけないのですか？
いけない。
どうしてですか？
はみ出したら汚なる。
枠に収まればきれい、はみ出せば汚い。それは絵の具がもともと汚いということですか？
そうかもしれへん。
Yeah, that logic is pretty sound to me.
あなたはどうしてこの部屋から出ないのですか？
I'm guessing this is actually before she ran away.
さくらは怪獣なん。みんなを困らすから出ちゃいけないって。
はみ出したらどうなるか教えてください。
いやや、ええ子にしとらんとあんちゃんに会えへん。あんちゃんに謝れへん。
Oh no, this is actually the orphanage. Wow, what a fucking messed up orphanage. This is what they do to her?
どうしてですか？
ええ子にしとらんと嫌われるんよ。
嫌われることが怖いのですね。
わからんことがぎょうさんあるんやね。真っ黒な目。宇宙みたい。
宇宙が自分を真似たのです。
This thing?
ほんと？
冗談。
先輩！
アキラ！
さくら、落ち着け。
Wait, who did he kill there? Or is he actually protecting Sakura there?
落ち着いて変身を解け。でねえとお前。
So when is this? Is this when... Is this actually the scene in the oil refinery? I guess we never had any of the perspectives there. But this must be it. Gusts of hot air rained down with the flapping of her wings. The kaiju threw itself into the thick, snowy clouds. A fire kaiju had set the orphanage and the area around it on fire. This one kaiju had almost finished off all the Icaruses. How weak are you guys? Or how strong is this thing?
黒い影と一緒にいたって。誰も怪獣なんて言ってなかった。影とか化け物って。一体私たちは何と戦っているの？
Snow fell evenly over the trees and pond. It was like the snow absorbed sound. It was a quiet night, and I couldn't even hear the sound of the sirens in the distance. Nozomi stopped the trembling in my hands that I hadn't noticed. Her body heat against me was burning hot. She was melting my upper body.
十郎さんの傷は心の中にあるんですね。どうすれば癒せるの？
Don't be so arrogant of yourself that you can do that.
私に教えてください。これからは私がそばにいますから。
セリフが違うだろう。 これからはずっとそばにいますだ。
My lines, her lines, were all captions in a film. Neither of us had feelings for each other from the start. We both knew it, but neither of us had anything else to rely on, or any other way to survive. It didn't matter how we felt. Time would go on and morning would come. People's eyes, cameras. Behind those things were countless unseen gazes. Our choices had become our jobs, and we couldn't escape. What do you think of me now, Yomi? I'm always thinking of you during the romantic lines. I placed a film in the projector. It was from the 1940s. It was about a world's fair in the future. I remembered the atmosphere that day when I heard the opening music. I was chosen as the lead from the start. The director had chosen the two pale-faced kids projected in black and white, Jotsugai and Bert Katsu. I wasn't able to join their circle of friendship. As soon as filming ended, my mother would immediately pull me away to go home. I wondered what they talked about as they giggled together. I wanted to ask them, but every time I turned around, they would get smaller and smaller. Unable to keep up with anyone, all I felt was loneliness. Acting was a way to distract myself from that pain. I met Yomi around that time. His eyes were the same color as mine. And we didn't even see Sakura getting killed in that scene too. It's either they don't want us to know that they actually killed Sakura, or I don't know. Because, you know, maybe... No, Sakura definitely died because it was in the headlines of the news, right? I'm guessing that she actually did die. Morning had come at some point. But they don't want to show us the exact scene that happened. There was a black kaiju floating in the sky. What was there to be confused about? I remembered what drove me to fight. Wasn't that just love and courage? Yomi would love me as long as I was the hero.
散歩をしよう。悪い怪獣を殺しに行くぞ。
So what is that? Is it Yomi? Yes, it is. Maybe he already knew that he was always going to be the villain in the story? Yomi, watch me. I'll stack corpses upon corpses for you. I went to the workshop for a suit fitting. I was surrounded by the smell of rubber. The ventilation fans in the high ceiling were hard at work. Suddenly, I was face to face with orange eyes.
君は
Shotaro Kagome. He didn't say a word as he stood there in shock. He must have been just as surprised to see me there, to see me here. Wait, okay, so that's not the refinery, that was actually the orphanage. And this time he's actually still searching for Sakura here, Kagome. Shige was in the Icarus transformation pose behind him.
十郎君、スーツが完成しているぞ。
なぜ君がここにいる？
カゴメ君、話は後だ。ちょっと待っているんだぞ。
He was here as a guest. I was about to turn around and go home when I felt a hand on me. Yomi. He took my coat from my back and neatly folded it. His smile hadn't changed from the day he told me goodbye. Shige was only gone for a moment before he came back with a black suit hanging in his hands. The mask on the mannequin was no different from mine when I transformed into Icarus.
それって新しいイカロスのスーツです。
来年放送予定の？
よくご存知で、第3期は黒いイカロスが主役です。
ヨミ、着替えを手伝ってくれ。
はい。
Kagome clutched at his chest. He tripped over his feet and tumbled backwards.
それではカゴメさん、俳優志望だったんですね。
はい。
素晴らしい入り込みでしたので、てっきり怪獣志望かと。重郎もそう思いますよね。
He zipped up the back of the suit. I caught Yomi's eyes through the mirror.
どうです重郎。
節の可動が悪い。
サテンやナイロンではこの光沢は出んぞ。
改善願います。
わしの寿命が先だな。
It really was nothing as flexible as human skin. Still, as long as Shige was handling it, he'd probably come through.
鞘師さん、この前のオーディション、合格者はいたんですか？
He had auditioned to be an extra in Icarus some time ago. He didn't qualify for a big role, but the costume director liked what he saw and was cast as a kaiju.
君だけだ。
またオーディションを受けに行っていいですか？ヒーローになることが僕の。
結果は変わらない。
イカロスに助けられたことがあるんです。直接じゃなくてテレビ越しですが、一番辛い時に勇気をもらったんです。
Yeah, this is something that I don't understand from Kagome.
だからオーディションがある限り通わせてください。諦めきれないんです。
The Soshigaya hero siren was going off. Yomi slit the window shut and the noise faded. Akira would get it. There was no need for me to show up. Kagome sat up straight, flustered.
今日はお邪魔してすみませんでした。僕はこれで。
鳴り止むまでいてください。
いえ。
君はイカロスになれない。君は怪獣だ。
ヒーローになります。どんな姿でも僕なりのヒーローに。
He said his confident words in a quiet voice. He then left in a hurry. The zipper was lowered to my waist. Yomi was still standing behind me, refusing to face me directly.
彼がアキラさんの恋人のようです。
知っていたのか？
少し前に仲良くなりたくて呼んじゃいました。
Tired from talking, she'd get fallen asleep. Now that no one was watching, I transformed into Icarus. I turned toward Yomi.
やはり重郎は黒が似合います。もうすぐ第3期が始まるんですね。
ああ。
今はまだ周知されていませんが、きっと初代を超える存在になる。
It was with these hands that killed Kaiju, with these hands covered in the smell of death, that I loved Yomi.
今夜、白いイカロスを殺す。君を抱くために。
I'd shown my strength.
待っています。
Was that what he was waiting for? The hero's siren echoed through the moonlight. I stood at Shoin Shrine with the now deceased kaiju gripped in my hand. The kaiju was a decoy. A white figure jumped down, just like I knew he would. I turned the kaiju into a spray of blood before the strange beam of light could hit it.
ついにそんな手を使うようになったのね。残忍な男。
It had been 2 years since the last time I'd been face to face with him like this. It had been 2 years since Gorohachi had died. He blended into the thick grove of trees and disappeared. I immediately aimed at the dark spot, my fist striking against his. The flames inside the lantern swayed. He didn't seem to have the ability to hide his shadow along with the rest of him. Realizing his trick was pointless now, he boldly faced me. I pierced my foot through his stomach. Both my arms had already been sliced off.
あの時と同じね。だけど違うのは
Akira, Ron.
覚えてるわ。あなたを売った最低の仲間。
Oh, Gorohachi was his partner? See.
俺を見逃せば基地のありかを教えるって。
I was wondering why we saw like a red Icarus. Did we give him his blood? Or was he just using an Icarus costume? Huh.
だから知ってるの。あなたたちイカロスが撮影所の地下に構えていることくらい。
You.
今度の仲間は従順ね。
Your partners are so obedient? Oh, I guess at this point he already had Sapphire's power. The lanterns crumbled and the flames went out. The white Icarus, no. Bert Katsu disappeared and was gone.
あいつが誰か知ってんのかよ。
It was all coming together.
ベルクカッツェという男を調べてくれ。
Oran lowered her head. It didn't look like a nod, but she clenched her fists instead. Does Miyamoto at this point already know that Ishiki was in Chotsugai's office? I think she knew. Maybe that's why she was so shocked when she saw that the white Icarus turned into Ishiki. Akira's frustration only increased knowing he had gotten away. They had all heard Bert Katsu's words. Gorohachi, you must have hated me. The sun was beginning to rise by the time I got home. So what if he hated you? I mean, that just means that he was a partner that wasn't able to show you his honesty. He was just a liar, isn't it? I was about to head to bed when I saw Yumi's profile under the eaves. He was gently stroking Taro, who was curled up on top of his lap.
綺麗な星空です。
君の方が何千倍も美しい。君以外に心が動かない。
それは何の映画のセリフですか？
僕の言葉だ。
Sure?
それにしてはどこかで聞いたことがあるような。
Same.
芝居がかってありふれているとでも。
え
え。ならば喋らない。
When I tried to kiss him, he lifted Taro between us.
白いイカロスには勝てたのですか？自分は弱いヒーローに興味ありません。
酷だな。
次回も頑張ってください。
I moved Taro out of the way and pushed Yumi down.
君を抱けば勝てそうな気がする。
その感情は間違いです。繁殖は同種の異性と行うもの。
That was a strange way to turn me down.
ですが、
I was now the one looking up.
例外も知っています。
Kaijus?
性欲を他で代用することは動物によくあるそうです。
True. True. Can't deny that. In prison, I do hear that people turn gay a lot. They want to use a hole.
その場合、より強い者がオス役を担う。
Are you gonna be the guy too? Is all the main characters that we play in this game going to be the female in this guy and guy action?
強い遺伝子を残すための本能だそうです。強くなってください。応援してます。
He pushed me away, okay. No way Yomi would want to do that. This doesn't feel like it's in his character. I flinched from the delayed pain. Yomi picked up Taro, who had rolled away, and went back to sit under the eaves.
優劣は外見で判断できません。戦ってこそわかるもの。
Alright. But what sort of battle, though? In the current world, we don't really battle with our fists anymore. We usually do battle with our brains.
僕が嫌いならば。
自分の幸せはあなたが幸せであること。自分の恐怖はあなたが失墜すること。
Then why?
心得違いなきよ
He wasn't going to accept me.
なぜ人は外見を気にするのですか
Damn it! I almost got that stupid mosquito. He was on my arm.
くだらない質問だ。
Oh, the manager.
教えてください
Is he also a kaiju?
中身に興味がないからだ。美しければそれでいい。
You know, as harsh as that is, he's actually right. People always judge, you know, based on first impressions, right? It's really hard to get to know someone, especially whether or not you know whether they're lying or not, too. But you can always judge something that's in front of you, physically.
ではなぜ心を求めるのですか
I don't really want to win hearts, but I guess the average person does.
心が外見を変えるからだ。
No, not really. I mean, people can say that if she has a beautiful heart, she's gonna look a lot more beautiful. But if a person's fat, I'm still gonna call them fat, even if she is a kind person.
ほうつまりは他人の心を動かすために外見を着飾るとあなたはなぜスーツを着るのですか
I guess he's really into Nozomi.
スーツは誰の心を動かすのですか
黙れ。
あなたは彼女の心を動かせないのですか
黙れ黙れ。
Yeah, that's why I don't really do anything for other people. When I do something, it's for my own sake. Maybe it's a cowardly way for me to live too, because sometimes when you do something for other people and then you get rejected, then it's gonna be, you know, it's gonna hurt, right? But at the same time, maybe this is just my nature, I don't know. But logically speaking, I kinda understand.
一体誰の心を動かせるのか教えてください
Alright, kaiju guy. We didn't actually know he was a kaiju. What kaiju is he? It was a cold, rainy night at the studio. When I returned to the waiting room after rehearsal, Haru's ears were drooping nervously.
のぞみが大変なの。
場所は
新宿。
ウランは
わかんない。でもヨミはジュロに来るようにって。
Yomi. Hearing his name, I threw my script aside and sprung into action. It was 10 o'clock at night. Our live music program would be starting now. The rain clinging to my body turned into mist.
あっち、ギラギラって雰囲気。
All the windows at the main office were dark when I got there. I couldn't see what was going on inside. Everyone who ran for safety was looking up at the building, frozen from the rain in their fear. I broke the window to get in. My feet landed on a writhing shadow. The window was covered as if it trapped me inside.
ライトだ
The walls were black. The floor and ceiling were twitching like muscles. Yeah, Yomi was able to control kaijus, right? So I assume he was the one that made kaijus go berserk. By amplifying their feelings or whatever. Their anxiety, I guess? More like. It was alive. Was this the kaiju? The grand studios were at the back of the building. It had been a live broadcast in front of an audience, so Nozomi wasn't the only one in danger. The door to Studio 6 shut on its own. If I used both hands, people were groaning amongst the noise. Those too slow to get away were caught by the shadow. Nozomi! She had passed out. As soon as Taro ran up to her, the monster had lifted her up in his hand. It seemed to be threatening to crush her if I attacked. Do we care enough about her? I guess we do because we feel responsible. I couldn't attack. She fell speechless when she looked across the spectator seats. The monster swung up its right hand. I wouldn't be able to block it. Oh, is she gonna turn into a kaiju? I still don't understand how kaijus turn into kaijus and Icarus turn into Icarus, to be honest, guys. Clearly, her eyes were trying to become kaiju there. All the lights in the studio exploded in response to her screams. Nozomi transformed into a blue kaiju, ripping through the monster's hand. I used that opportunity to run toward the kaiju and knocked its head off. It instantly turned into sparkling dust. One down. One to go. Nozomi could no longer see me or anyone else around her. There would only be more victims if I allowed her to sing anymore. I have to take you down for your own sake. My attack aimed at the kaiju struck Taro's body and said,
Taro! スタジオから出すわけにはいかない。
The kaiju wore out its voice and fell forward. The impact rippled through the building, healing the shadows that had taken over the walls. A sprinkler soaked the studio. I mean, aren't kaijus able to turn back to normal though? We see that with Chotsugai. We see that with Shotaro. What makes them special compared to other kaijus? If it was only Shotaro, I can understand because he has the ability to cancel out other kaiju's abilities. But Chotsugai doesn't have that. Firefighters rushed in and carried out the people who hadn't made it out in time. I changed back to normal and picked up Nozomi. Her chest moved with her breathing. Yeah, see? What the fuck? He was going to kill her just like that? She was gonna be able to turn back as long as you know, don't actually kill her.
怪我はないか?
I remembered the dream I had before where Guruhachi and Nozomi were talking. The outdoor concert. Being the star of a top studio. All of our dreams had come true.
Boku も一つ教えよう。僕が愛するのは読みだけだ。
So why do you need to rescue Nozomi? It continued to rain. The city was covered in a thick fog and was still in the midst of its slumber. I sat down next to her and waited for her to open her eyes.
幸い死者は出ていない。君を襲った怪獣は君のマネージャーだった。
She lifted herself up on shaky hands and looked at me earnestly. The silence made her realize where she was. Her unblinking eyes filled with large tears.
私の目は何色ですか？
They're not black anymore. How is she able to suppress that anyway?
オレンジだ。
抱いてください。私まだ歌いたいの。
Does my blood or my bodily fluids suppress it? But that doesn't seem to be the case with Kozuka and Shotaro. My eyes were still clearly orange from the beginning till the end until Yomi disappeared.
お願い。
Oh, sorry. I missed the dot 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 there.
君はゴロハチを愛していた。
Wait, wasn't Gorohachi your dad? Who the fuck is he? What?
君が本当に愛するのは今も彼だけだ。
だから歌いたいの。彼が好きだって言った声で、私は。
That's not my problem.
ごめんなさい。あなたの正義につけ込んで。これでよかったの？
Okay, I guess he's going to be true to his feelings now. Yeah, fuck that bitch, come on. She was clearly using you too. And you clearly weren't enjoying your time with her.
ジュロ。
I was headed toward Tateyama. Gorohachi's grave was on a cliff that looked over the ocean in the town. The town where Nozomi and he had grown up in. He had talked about this place so much, it didn't feel like this was my first time here. He told me the view from this hill was what made him an actor. The world was covered in grey now. There was someone already at the grave. It was a young man, completely drenched. There was fresh incense burning in front of Gorohachi's grave. He was glaring at me from behind his black hair.
なぜ彼女のそばにいてあげないのですか？彼女が怪獣化したと聞きました。
世間には気づかれていない。
ですが彼女はもう歌えない。重郎がいなければあの方は。
歌は一人でも歌える。
ならどうして人はスクリーンに映りたがるのでしょう。
They do? I mean, I don't think that was actually her reason for singing though, right? I mean, I don't know what her reason for singing is, but I don't think it's to become famous.
誰かに届けようとするのでしょう。
Yeah, that's probably it. You're probably right there.
わからない。
分かっていないのはあなただけです。
Sorry about that, I mispressed. I actually pressed the beep on my interface there. That actually scared me too.
たまには君が教えてくれ。
一人じゃ生きられないからです。
Yes, they can't, but I try my best to try to become self-sufficient.
この地球を支配した生物なのに人間は一個体では生きられない。
その通りだ。僕も君も。
自分は人間じゃありませんから。
I grabbed him by the shoulders and forced him toward me. He looked to the side. I was used to seeing this profile.
君を守りたい。
ヒーローが発してはいけないセリフです。
僕はもうヒーローではない。君が望むなら他のイカロスを殺してもいい。
Yomi grabbed the umbrella away from me. Kara turned to stone and fell by my feet. Yomi continued to look downward.
覚えていますか？初めて出会った日のことを。新一とボッコを殺したのは自分です。
See. I remembered. It wasn't something I could forget. My parents covered in blood. The unfamiliar boy. He didn't look like a human or a kaiju, but a black shadow.
あなたは自分を殺さなかった。
君も僕を殺さなかった。
Oh my god, I got that stupid mosquito at last.
殺せなかったのです。
Why?
あなたが2世だったから。あなたと話すのは今日が最後です。
So what if I'm the second generation? What's with this weird convoluted thing that you have? What's with the rules that you set upon yourself? So yes, Shinichi was the first generation Icarus and I'm the second generation, but so what?
これからも陰ながらあなたのことを。
I smacked his cheek.
僕と戦え、ヨミ。
自分が勝てば諦めてくれますか？
諦めない。
戦う意味は？
優劣を決めるためだ。
What the fuck? And this is how he's gonna actually force himself on him? A darkness spread behind Yumi. There was fury swirling into his eyes. Countless hands reached out from that darkness and wrapped themselves around Yomi. I ripped them apart one by one. Once the hands were gone, the Yomi I knew, no. The Yomi I truly knew was standing there. He was a single reddish-black eye. It felt like I was finally facing him.
ヨミ。
その名は忘れてください。
I punched him as hard as I could. I ripped apart the tangle of hands he put up in defense. My steps toward him never slowing down. I then slipped through the gaps in his fingers and touched his body. There was a burning head hidden behind that thin membrane.
この自分をなお組みしこうというのですね。
How does he do that? You're a fucking red eye.
どんな姿であろうとも、君は美しい。
Are you gonna like fuck his head or eye or how are you gonna fuck this guy?
手足が何本だろうと構わない。
今の笑うところですか？
My spine snapped. My mobile body was being lifted into the air from my neck. Yomi's eyeball was floating right in front of me. If this turned into some sort of weird tentacle, like 8 scene, I would fucking lose my mind. I'm not even joking. Considering this is an H game, I am half expecting it to happen.
もう終わりですか？
The hands reaching out from the floor wrapped around my legs. They slid over my skin beneath my suit and my clothes. My transformation was beginning to wear off, starting from my feet.
もうすぐ地球を滅ぼします。どうか止めに来てください。
ヨミ。
Your eye was smiling. My eyes closed alone. How do eyes smile? The phone was ringing in the living room. I woke up on the veranda. Snow was silently falling into the garden like shooting stars.
ヨミ。
He said he was going to destroy the earth, and that I should stop him. What could I do? What if he destroyed the world? What would happen to this country? Would everyone die? I just want to see you. So what should I do? Where should I go? How could I get through to you?
どうでもいい。どうでも。
おはようございます。
目玉のあんちゃん。
Where am I? Why is Sakura still alive?
この前は助けてくれて大きに。
Oh, I guess this is going to be where he used her to go to the refinery.
いえ。
Maybe.
でもさくらな。こっから出たい。お姉のおじちゃん優しいけどな。行きたいとこあんねん。
Mr. Sister? Who the fuck is that?
なあ、また出してくれへん？
お安いご用です。今度は一体どちらへ？
イカロスをしばくんや。
力をお貸ししましょう。
Why do you suddenly want to beat up Icarus?
さくら、誰と話してるの？
お姉のおじちゃん。
Oh, this is Mr. Sister.
それやめてって言ってるでしょ。
お姉のあんちゃん。
略して。
お姉ちゃん。
どうしたの？
はようこっから出して。
ダメよ。
出して。
さくら、
おかん殺したイカロスしばきたいねん。
落ち着いて。
話して。
あたしがイカロスを殺す。あなたはただ隙を作ってくれればいい。
Okay, so she found out that the grandma died.
さくらが殺す。
Or mom, I guess, not grandma.
あいつらみんな
この雪が雨に変わって、そして止んだら、あなたの出番よ。
Alright, I think this is actually where I'm gonna call it an episode. I feel like if I go forward more here, we're actually going to see the scene where Sakura is rampaging, and that is where I want to, you know, that's the point of the story where I'm like, I want to know what happens, and it's probably gonna be a lot harder for me to stop myself once we get to that point. But yeah, I feel like this game is really up my alley because, as I said, guys, I really like it when a story is convoluted, when a story is, you know, us trying to piece together the pieces that they show bit by bit. But I also like it when stories give you a sense that these guys are experiencing such really intense emotional struggles. The struggles that these guys feel are very real, even though they might not necessarily resonate with myself, since I'm a different sort of personality. But it's not as if what they're feeling is, you know, not valid in any way. I like that. I like the fact that they're really struggling with their inner selves. These are definitely the type of stories that I like. But yeah, I really have nothing much to say about this. But I'm guessing we're probably going to be finishing up UuultraC next week, since I have 3 more episodes to record next week. And judging based on the amount of episodes we do per chapter, which is about 4 or 5, I think we're probably going to be finishing it next week. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Give this video a like if you guys like it. Sub if you guys haven't. Patreon will be getting these episodes early access along with everything uncensored. So far, there is nothing uncensored except for that boob that you saw on the last episode for like Nozomi. But I've been really liking this chapter since there's no hate scenes, there's no smut scenes, like whatsoever. If there is like a scene at the very end of the game, I don't even care if like Juro doesn't even fuck a male Yomi or whatever. But it'll be pretty interesting. But yeah. Also, for people on YouTube that aren't on Patreon just yet, feel free to become a free member because that's gonna be where I put first episode previews of future playthroughs. Alright, tomorrow I'll be recording some more Amayui. I can't deny the fact that I've been more interested in this game compared to Amayui, guys. Hopefully Amayui stops it with this whole filler arc though. God, the filler arc has been going for, I don't know, a lot of episodes. Maybe the past 5 or 6 episodes. It's insane. See ya.